Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and very welcome guests, I have a beloved. And my beloved is something wonderful that's changed my life. And I want to take you on a journey that maps out some of the things I've been through. Some of these things are quite hurtful. So if I start crying, you'll understand. Some of these things make me really angry, but I'll calm down. Let me tell you a little bit about my family and what they instilled into me. Let me tell you a bit about the struggles that I went through. And then let me tell you about Beloved and how Beloved has changed my life. My father would say to me, ora labora, or something like that. I never really got the Latin. But it really means work and pray. That's what he used to say. Work really hard and pray really hard, and don't forget to stand up for your rights. I'd be okay, I can deal with that. My mother used to say to me, have a go, you'll never know until you try. And she was always right. But my grandmother used to say to me, as I walked off to make a cup of tea for her in the kitchen, that bottom's far too big, you need to go running. So they instilled in me a sense of myself that no matter what happened, I could just do what I wanted to do and be a good person. But I'm going to give you 3 small stories that have happened to me, and maybe to other people, maybe to you, that really made it difficult for me to live up to my family's expectations of me. Now, I grew up in a subtropical suburb of London called Croydon. It's very hot, very sunny, and it's wonderful. And it was great to be there, and that was my home, it's where I was born. But so often when I went to school, or I went to different organisations, I was called immigrant. You're from, immigrant background. You're an immigrant, you're a foreigner. And I used to try and ignore it, get it out of my head, but it used to keep coming up. And I used to have a few friends at school, and one particular friend called Bronnie would say, they say it about me as well, my parents are from Ireland. Don't worry, Jenny, it's fine. That's fine, I got over that. Then I went to do my A-levels. It was great, I was getting there, doing stuff, and my teacher, who was very, very pompous man, would stand there, and I can't remember if he had one leg or one eye, but something like that. And he would say, right, everyone in the class, put your hand up if you're going to university. Well, my hand went straight up. He looked at everybody else, and then he looked at me and he said, I don't think so, dear. I think you better be a secretary. And I laughed, because I thought, well, he's completely bonkers. The third thing that used to happen quite often, and sometimes still does, is I'd go somewhere. In fact, it was the Isle of Wight, and it was a beautiful, lovely lighthouse. Chatting to people on a school trip, and I came down the lighthouse, as you do, backwards so you don't fall off. Got downstairs, and the people I'd been chatting to upstairs were behind me. And as I walked across, I could hear them say, darling, she speaks such awfully good English. I wonder where she learnt it. And it used to really get me that I had this sense of not belonging here. That there was a sense that I was from somewhere else. But I didn't give up. I thought about my dad, I kept praying, kept working, and then the chance of a lifetime came. I went to Jamaica. This was home. This was going to be it. I'd be fine, I'd be all right. It was only a 3-week holiday, mind you. And there were people there who were doctors, nurses, pilots, and they were all complexions of black. And Chinese, and Syrian. And what did they call me? Foreign. You English girl. You foreigner. We can't understand what you're saying. Why do you talk like that? It was awful. It was just brutal. I didn't belong anywhere. But it was art that was going to pull me out of that misery. So I started getting involved in art. I started looking at art, and I loved going to Tate Britain. I used to go and just walk around and saunter and stare. And then I said, let me read up about the history of this place, this delightful, wonderful place. So I did. And there was Henry Tate, who lived in Streatham, who collected all this artwork, and it was such a big collection, it couldn't fit in his house. So he gave it to the nation, and there they were going to build the National Gallery. What a fantastic man, full of philanthropy. And then I made the link between Tate and Lyle and Tate, the sugar link. And I was told, Jenny, no, it's not a problem. It was when the Cube was around. Don't worry, darling. Don't worry, don't worry. And then I kept reading. And then I found out, no, he did buy stuff from Brazil. And it was, you know, enslaved. And I got angry and angrier. And I thought, I don't belong here. I'm an immigrant. And now the place I love the most has been built on the blood of slaves. It was just awful. But I kept thinking about what my parents told me, just keep going, it's not a problem, it's okay, you just keep going. So I did. And then I found out about inspiring people who were these black inventors. Black inventors, what the earth are those? So I found out that the first man to the North Pole, that we never hear about, was a black man. And I was like, what's happening? I just got angrier and angrier and angrier. And I walked into the Tate one day, really angry, really seething, and I kept walking, and then I saw a picture that I hadn't seen before. And this picture was about so big. And as I looked closer and closer, oh, it's pre-Raphaelite, how boring. When I looked closer and closer, there was a child in the picture at the bottom, and it had been hung, so our eyes were meeting. And I looked at this girl, and she looked at me, and I looked at her, and she kept looking at me. And she was surrounded by a bride and her four bridesmaids. And the bride had long, flowing red hair, and her bridesmaids were alabaster-skinned and brown hair, covered in a voile. The bride was wearing green, olive green, and the girl held in her hand a posy of red and pink and yellow roses. And she looked at me and I looked at her. This picture is called Beloved, and it's by Rossetti. And the longer I looked at her and she looked at me, something happened, and that anger started to fade. Beloved is a story in the Bible from Songs of Solomon. And it's a wonderful story. But from that time onward, I knew that I'd changed. A picture had changed me. Because she seemed quite content in the Tate, this little girl, smiling at me as she did. The entourage around her seemed quite content to have her there. It was just a beautiful picture. So from moving on to this picture, I've now learnt it's so important for all of us to find something. Whether it be art, or music, or a poem, or a tree in your favourite park, find something that really can stir you and change you. I'm now at Chelsea. It took me a long time to keep saying that to people, but I do it to make myself laugh. And I actually feel like I belong there. It took a long time to do that. And my mentor, Nigel Cutt, said to me, Jenny, where I live now is the first time in my life that I felt I belong. They were the most powerful words that were said to me over the phone. And I thought, oh my gosh, it happens to other people too. It was really empowering. And I want you to be passionate about the arts. I want you to go to a gallery you haven't been to, or go to a room in a gallery you haven't been to, and to find one picture that makes you stir. And you too will have another beloved.